It's important to me, and I could not imagine not coming here.
Rather than just give money, I thought I'd better get up off my backside and help, and that's what I did.
What really blew me away was how friendly everybody is, how well every team works together, and just the goodness in everybody.
I give them the height of praise. To me, they're just special people.
By helping them as much as I can, I feel the better person for it.
It was a pleasure for me because I've never been up in a plane.
I would recommend anyone to come along and do it. It's just a fantastic experience.
You couldn't put a price in the work that's done here. I've seen my colleagues give of service that you couldn't buy.
It's a huge undertaking, and it's only people who are foolish for the love of Christ that will do it. When you consider that we're setting off with almost 500 people, 120 of them quite ill, and anything can go wrong. And you say, well, you know, you imagine the head, but it's the foolishness of Christ, I think, that brings us. It's the trust we have in our Blessed Lady and trust we have in our Lord, and we do it. We're the first group ever to bring pilgrims from Ireland to Lourdes. The Oblates were the very first. And with the exception of the war years when it was impossible to travel, we have brought a pilgrimage every year. Our pilgrims are drawn from England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and the island of Jersey. We're the Oblates of Mary Immaculate, so we're under the banner of our Blessed Lady. And of course, Lourdes is very particular to our Blessed Lady, where she appeared to St. Bernadette. She asked people to come there to do penance and to pray and to bring their burdens to the grotto. So because we are sons of Mary Immaculate, we see this as a very special ministry.
There's 98 young people here with us this year. The emphasis on service, and when you see what they're doing, this is really the gospel in action. How the young people, how they give of themselves in their service to others. The Oblate congregation, as we try to live out the charism of Eugene de Masnod in our lives, we live that charism with others. As Eugene in his day reached out to people. And we tried to see what would have Eugene maybe have done in his day, and living in his spirit, how can we respond?
The French word is accueil, which means welcome. It's really a hostel, welcoming place for people, and its origins were the olden days when the poor people around the Lourdes area, they came on foot.
The highlight of the year to come to Lourdes. There's something so special. All these helpers, they just make it. make it so easy for everybody, you know.
Invalids and able-bodied people from the Anglo-Irish province, they travel out for 5 days every September. We generally bring 120 invalids, or guests as we like to call them, and obviously there has to be quite a number of volunteers who travel out to look after them. You would have your brancardiers, the male helpers, your handmaids, the female helpers, nurses, clergy, and the Oblate Youth Service. Young people, all volunteers from England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, who travel out to devote those 5 days to the care of the invalids.
Absolutely everyone that I've been talking to said they're just getting so much out of being at the ceremonies here in Lourdes. You experience it firsthand, a Christian way of life, and it makes the gospel more real to these people. It makes the Mass more real, it makes the Eucharist more real to these people by experiencing it.
And we're just helping them from one place to another, talking to them, getting to know them. Some of the people here have been going for 5-6 years, and the bonds they have with some of the patients, they're nearly crying when they come back each year, and it's something that I'd like to experience again and again.
I'm responsible for the handmaids to make sure we have cover in all areas, because we look after the dining room and the kitchens where we prepare food for some of the invalids who don't like the food they've got from the hospital or who can't eat the food that is provided by the hospital. And then we have handmaids working on the wards who make the beds, tidy the rooms, clean the rooms, change the bed linen if it gets soiled. In general, look after the welfare of the patients on the wards from a cleaning aspect of it, and chatting to the patients, which is very nice because patients recognise the blue tunics and they feel more at home and more at ease.
See you later, Nay.
We also carry the banners, so we do a little bit in all of the areas.
I am the chief of brancardiers for the pilgrimage. The name is linked back to the French word for stretcher, which is a brancard. So originally, those who helped here in Lourdes were people who lifted stretchers and brought people to the baths in those very early days. During our time in Lourdes, we are responsible for all of the movements that the pilgrimage takes. So wherever it goes, I mean, there's 122 with us this year. So, you know, we have to move 122 people to any service that we're going to go to.
First thing in the morning, we will come down and we will help to get the guests up and changed and ready. And then with the help of the youth service as well, we get them into the dining room for their breakfast. The handmaids then start cleaning the rooms, washing them, fixing the beds up, and then there's another group of them in the dining room serving up the meals, and that goes on continuous throughout the day for all the meals that they have 3 times a day.
You really feel appreciated and that you're wanted and that you're doing something good, and 5 days to give up out of your normal life isn't much at all when there's 365 days in a year. And at the end of it all, you go home tired, but you feel so much better for coming here and doing it.
I've been to the ceremonies, and yet I don't feel like I've had a religious overload. You don't feel like that because the masses and the ceremonies here are designed around the invalids, the malad, and you just happen to be like an invited guest. You should enjoy it, but it's not for you. Your job is to enjoy in somebody else's big day, and that's really what Lourdes can be about.
We did training so that we'd know how to properly push a wheelchair, be able to talk to the patients so they're as comfortable as possible. And then today we brought them over to the St. Bernadette Church and we had a mass there, opening mass of the Oblate pilgrimage. Then we went over and we got the group photograph taken outside the church.
I think when people come here, they have great expectations
They're looking for a miracle, but when they look around and they see the myriads of people that have all sorts of awful things and so ill, it's more a spiritual healing than a physical healing. Now, I certainly have experienced one healing that was definitely a miracle. It was a young boy. I carried him on my knee, in fact, on the airplane and on the fourgons going to and from. A little boy from Offaly, and he had terminal cancer, and he was cured.
Say but the word, and I shall be healed. During this Mass,
we range from people with motor neurone, multiple sclerosis, very incapacitated people, to young children, people with learning disabilities. Quite a few of those. We have some people who are deaf. We have one gentleman who's partially sighted. We have people who live alone and never see the light of day from one end of the year to the other. There wouldn't be much wrong with them other than that they're alone. And this is an actual trip that they really, really enjoy, and they come every year.
May the Lord, who is loving mercy, help you grace and with his spirit. Amen. May the Lord increase you for his sins, save you and raise you up.
A lot of them, it's the only time that they will get away from either their home or the nursing homes that they're in. They have great inner faith, and they have great faith in Our Lady.
God help some of them, they can't even help themselves, you know. That includes myself too, I suppose. But I like coming here.
You just have to look at the 120 guests that come out with our pilgrimage. Year in, year out, people with awful, awful disabilities. And I firmly believe that they get the strength to last from one end of the year to the next from Lourdes.
When I came the first time, it was the Oblate that I came with. The association was created then, and it's remained ever since. I couldn't imagine going to Lourdes with any other group.
They're not about boasting or saying what they actually do, but when you do begin to see what they do, it's unbelievable. It brings tears to your eyes.
My only experience of the Oblates is from coming here, and from what I can see is that they've got a great kind of ethos of giving up everything and, you know, doing their best for everybody. I think that they just get actively involved to make people's lives better. They seem to just love giving up time and, you know, energy and effort to make little differences in people's lives.
It is a pilgrimage for all of us. And we just would hope that that experience here, that we experience together, is something that enables us to go home and to be renewed in our faith, to be renewed as individuals, and to continue to be the people that God has called us to be, with all our gifts, with our limitations, with our joys, our sorrows, and everybody here carries some part of them. They've had their own hardships in life. And here, I think, is a place where we share those hardships together. Helpers and guests. We just share life in a very intimate way, very close way. A way that gives life. We give life to one another. And that is very much, I think, at the heart of the gospel.
Very, very quickly I felt part of the family of the youth service. I felt part of something much larger than me, something much larger than the individual guests. It was obviously part of a huge experience. You would work with the same guest every morning, and that experience helped you to become very, very close to that particular person that you were caring for. They were putting themselves at your mercy, they were trusting you, so you felt a great responsibility towards this person as well. So that really added to my experience of Lourdes.
Everybody is just so nice. We all get on like a house on fire. It's amazing how everybody can just pull together. Everybody is just there for everybody.
Being able to help people, it's just an incredible experience, and I just love listening to their stories and helping them.
One of my friends, he encouraged me to come along. Like, it was something that I always wanted to do. My father did it for 12 years here, so it passes on through generation to generation, like, you know.
Those youth workers are great. There's two great people that I had. The girl has travelled the world, like, you know, and now Brian was telling me today he's going off to Africa for next summer. So they do pick a great team.
Volunteering to work in the baths, that was a real eye-opener for me the first time I did it. Seeing all these people at their weakest, at their most vulnerable, it was a very, very emotional experience for me. I actually went back several times afterwards to volunteer again in the baths. You see some very sick people, and knowing there's nothing you can do, you just feel terrible, but at the same time you feel very privileged that your fellow pilgrims are allowing you into their lives, they're allowing you to share this experience with them.
I have one story that really struck me this year. There was this lady in a ward, and I walked by and I could hear she was extremely agitated, and I just walked in and I seen her and she couldn't speak at all. And the nurse said, will you take her outside? And as we were bringing her outside, I turned around to my friend and I said, we should bring her down to the grotto. So the whole way down, she was very agitated, she was crying. And I just whispered in her ear, I said, you're going to the grotto now, you're going to see St. Bernadette and Our Lady. And she just calmed down. Once she walked into the grotto, she started touching the rocks and she didn't speak at all, she was completely silent. And then we brought her around and we stood in front of the grotto. And even when she wanted to say something, you can't make out any words, she whispered to me, these people have faith that's so deep and it's so real. It's as real as I'm talking to you.
It kind of teaches people that you can work through this. It's not the end. People come to some kind of acceptance of what they have and what they're going to do about it, and they've got a choice then. They've got a choice to either live their lives, you know, with hope and peace and some kind of reconciliation between them and what they have and God, or they could be bitter. I'd rather be the former than the latter. And you see that in Lourdes every day of the week and twice on a Sunday.
Father Lucas is always looking out for us, making sure that we're okay and doing the right thing and just guiding us through this whole experience.
They come here and they enter into the experience of Lourdes. How do you put into words a place like this?
Tonight will be the big night, I think, with the Torchlight procession. I just think that should be amazing.
Don't ask what the sick can give you, ask what you can give to them. And if you give something to the sick, you'll get something back 100-fold. People come here with every faith in the world, and some with none. They all go home with something.
Being British, we're obsessed about the weather, so I obviously have to mention it's been the rainiest Lourdes I've ever experienced. Despite that, it actually hasn't dampened people's spirits. If anything, it's improved it. There's a party on the penultimate night every Lourdes trip, and this was actually the best one I've ever seen.
Flat about 7:30, and we have music and singing, and we have cake and buns and tea and coffee and soft drinks, and we have a great night until about 10 o'clock, and then everybody retires to the bed.
Well, look at that! Well done! Well done!
These people who come and work with the sick and the invalids are all volunteers who pay their own fares out and give up their vacation to do this work. All of us dedicate ourselves to looking after the sick for those 5 days.
The hard part is always the saying goodbye. You know, it's amazing that for most of us we never get together again in the year. Life moves on and some people don't come back next year. That's happened with guys I've worked with, got sick during that 12-month period, and it's that saying goodbye. You kind of want to see everybody here again in 12 months' time.
It's an incredible experience, and year after year I just keep coming back to Lourdes. I'd be lost without it.
I used to come to enjoy the experience of being with young people and also to be with the older people, but now it's about being in Lourdes, and it's nice to be talking to young people and having fun with them, but it's more about Lourdes.
It's the best thing you could ever do. It's the best opportunity you could ever be given. You're walking away feeling, I got more out of that than anybody else.
I would like to see it as a family coming back together, a family reunion. The joy of meeting each other, the joy of spending these few days together, of living the life together and living the gospel. And that the gospel's not easy. It's a challenge when the alarm clock goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning to get out of bed. The day is long. But it's in that giving of, when we give of ourselves, when you see people giving of themselves to others, the little miracles of the day, the communications, the conversations, the sharings, that experience is something that is life-giving. And that life-giving experience is something that, certainly for me, is something that I take away from here when I go home. And it will be renewed again, because it's a story that is told year in and year out. the Oblate pilgrimage here in Lourdes in September.